Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful Wednesday edition of the On Air Advocate. We're at the On Air Advocate. We look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited that you are either joining us here this morning or you are catching it on the replay. Now, for most of you, if you've been following the On Air Advocate, you know that for the last month, we have been focusing on autism acceptance and awareness. And so if you feel that this broadcast would be relevant for anyone within your network or circle, please hit the share button and share the love with everyone else. So with that being said, as we keep on this focus of acceptance, awareness, and higher education and knowledge in the realm of autism, I am super excited to welcome Maria Davis. I'm not going to do the whole last name like I said it wasn't. We're just going to say Maria Davis.
No problem.
Who is the founder of Autism in Black. She is also a therapist, a coach, a speaker, and an advocate, and above all, a mom of three. And she has a set of twins. So let's give her props right now for that. So welcome, Maria.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. So excited about
Yeah, and I am so excited. I know that we've had some brief conversations, but to really dig into kind of the trenches of, the journey that kind of started this campaign for Autism in Black and how it came to be.
So like you said, I'm a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. And my niche in counseling before, focusing on autism was grief and loss and perinatal mental health in Black women. So that was what I was doing, completely fine with that. Then we had our first daughter. And at about 6 months, I noticed signs that she may be on the spectrum. Okay. And, there was a little back and forth, and finally around, 18 months after going on this long journey of trying to get her diagnosed, she got the diagnosis.
Okay.
So, we thought, at that point that, okay, we've been going through this process. We've got this diagnosis. Now things are going to start getting easier for us.
Right.
Completely incorrect.
Now, just to stop you for one moment, was there anyone in your family history or anything that had any type of different abilities at all, or was this kind of the first?
This was a first thing in our family.
Okay.
I noticed it at 6 months. I told my husband, I think she, is on the spectrum. He was like, no, she was premature. Let's wait. Her doctor said the same thing. Let's wait. And then at around 12 months, she started to regress in her speech. So she started to forget how to say mama and dada, even though she had already started saying those things for months. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm not going to listen to the both of you. I'm going to go and advocate for my child and see about getting her this diagnosis. So the pediatrician sent me to a multidisciplinary team made up of a speech pathologist, an OT, developmental pediatrician, and a child psychologist. And they did all of the testing and they agreed. They said, yes, we do believe she's on the spectrum, but because she's not 3, we can't give her the diagnosis. You're going to have to go see a neurologist. So then we had to go and find a child neurologist, which is extremely difficult because not many neurologists in our area and a lot of other areas specialize in child neurology. So when we found one, we went there and he had us do all of this special genetic testing, which was extremely expensive, and our insurance didn't cover it. We go back, get the results, and he was like, okay, we've ruled out all the genetics, and I do think it is autism. However, I don't want to give her the diagnosis until she's 3. And by that point, I was just completely frustrated. I said, okay, well, I'm everybody knows she's on the spectrum. Early intervention is key. if you're not going to give me the diagnosis, I'm just going to sit here in your office and call every day until you give me the diagnosis. Because at this
Right.
point, she can't get services unless she has
Right.
that diagnosis. So you guys aren't helping me, and waiting a year and a half isn't going to help.
Right.
So he finally did give me the diagnosis so I could finally put her in services. And by that time, she was 18 months.
Now, this whole time, were you guys in Florida going through this process?
Yep,
Okay.
South Florida. We lived in Boca Raton at the time. My husband is a physician, so he was trying to get his connections in on it as well. It was just a difficult process trying to get this diagnosis, even though everybody knew she was on the spectrum, but wanted to wait another year and a half for whatever reason.
What's really interesting about that is you think of you and your husband both being medical providers in different ways, and still how difficult things are when you already know the things and the way it should be going and what the doctors should be doing and all of that. I speak very openly about that with our GPS doc that's on once a month, her being a doctor herself, and she experienced things with like her elderly loved ones and everything. And even though she's in the circle, that's her career.
Yes.
So you just think about the normal lay person, how hard it must be.
And that was what kind of gave me that extra push to create Autism in Black, because it was like, we're in this field, we have connections in this field, and it still was a process for us to get the diagnosis that she needed. And it's mostly in part because the professionals, aren't really secure in giving the autism diagnosis. They kind of don't want to mess that up. So it's really about being more knowledgeable as a physician to be like, okay, this is autism. I'm confident that it is, and here's your diagnosis.
Right. So after you got finally that diagnosis, so you could start to get services and whatnot for her, what was that next layer of challenge that you found? So, I mean, now you had gotten over the biggest layer, which was getting the diagnosis so that you could put it on the forms, for all the things so that you can get the therapies and the different items needed. But then I know, as a mom of a son with many different abilities, that's just the first step.
Yes, that was probably the easiest step, even when looking back at it, even though it was so hard to get the diagnosis. It was like, okay, well, maybe that was the easiest step, because then comes in, like you said, getting all the services. And some services like ABA can have a 2-year wait list. Insurance may not want to cover anything autism related. That's what we were going through at that time. Our insurance would not cover anything. We were paying out of pocket $200 a day for a particular therapy for her. And that was just one of her therapies. And then she would have the speech therapy, the OT, and then she also had a developmental specialist. And, there was only one service that was being covered, and we were paying out of pocket for the rest of them. And so we're dealing with that. We're dealing with, she can't get into particular things until she's 3. So even though we did have the diagnosis, we couldn't get her into a specialized school until she was 3 that focused on, helping her with her skill set. So it was, a journey with the services. And then we had the professionals that were coming into our home and never once took our culture into consideration. I'm Black, my husband is Haitian, and they never kind of explored that and how we explore autism differently. So they were giving us a cookie cutter approach, and it was just not working. And not only that, they didn't check in with us as the parents either. They would just kind of try to come in and, do the services with our daughter, and that was it. And it's like, you have to involve me as the parent, because I'm with her more than anything. So you have to involve me. So that was another struggle. So it was just like, oh my goodness, this is not working.
I know. And when we had chatted, I know that we had an open conversation about that, which I'd like for you to kind of share with the audience of the things that you have discovered within those therapies and supports within communities coming in, that they really do not look at your background.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And how that becomes really a stopping point. For many. And I think that bringing awareness to that
Mhm.
is really, it's so exponentially important. It just really is.
It really is. And as a therapist myself, I think it's extremely important to be culturally competent.
Mhm.
And, that doesn't mean to me knowing about every culture, but that means to me is exploring with the family their
Right.
particular core set of values that they have and exploring their cultural background. Because if you're just going in and giving me a cookie cutter approach that you use for family A, that's not going to
Mhm.
work for our family because we're different. We approach things differently. So that was a real difficult challenge for us. And I went through many therapists and trying to explain to them,
Mhm.
that this is my issue. But, they did not really care. So I
Mhm.
had to go through a lot of therapists just to find one that would be like, okay, this is how we approach things differently in our home because it's just not going to work otherwise. So because if she's
Right.
used to us doing certain things by our culture and then you come in here and you're trying to teach her from a different perspective,
Mhm.
she's not going to understand that. She's already on the spectrum, so you're adding in another challenge with that. So by
Right.
trying to understand how our family works, that could make it easier for you and her as well.
Right. And now, as you have opened the doors to autism and Black and starting to embrace your community and those things that you felt kind of faltered, what have your experiences been with, with others? Have you found that they were having those same experiences as you?
Yes, and not only that, they felt more comfortable seeing someone that looked like them. So
Mm-hmm.
it made it easier for them to let that guard down and
Right.
really get involved. Because a lot of times, even though I am a therapist, when somebody who is, in a professional role and comes into our home, we automatically kind of have a wall and get a little
Right.
defensive because of the history of that and what that means for us. So by having somebody that look like them and understands them and they don't have to explain, certain jargon or things like that, it kind of lets that wall down and they're like, okay, I
Right.
can really get involved and share my feelings with you about this whole journey and this whole process. So it kind of gives them that support that they need from an understanding role.
And I know that when we talked about the cultural background and religious beliefs,
Mhm.
I know that you spoke something pretty strong to me about that, which it resonated because it's
Mhm.
so true that when our religious beliefs, lead us that um, God sees us obviously through all things, and God can and God will, but that doesn't mean that we don't need support and
Exactly.
that we don't, that we don't need help,
Mhm.
with things. And so definitely understanding that. But a lot of times people are coming to the home um,
Mhm.
as therapists and maybe don't take that into consideration that there is a lot of
Mhm.
a religious level of different things going on as
Exactly.
well with that.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
where is, now your daughter is going to be 5, or she is 5 now
She is 5. She'll be 6 in June.
in June. Okay. So now, fast forward a little bit. So, all the struggles, trials, tribulations,
Mhm.
finding your perfect medical team, right?
Yes,
Putting together. I always say you got to have your team
you do.
um, together. Where are things at now? Is there a specialty school in Florida that she'll be attending? And what has that
She,
process been like for you?
when she turned 3, she was able to start the specialty school. So she is at
Okay.
a school that specializes for children on the spectrum.
Okay.
Um, it's called the Palm Beach School for Autism, and it has been a godsend for us. I mean, the level of care that they take, the level of training that everybody who works there
Mhm.
has is just insane to me. Everybody works together. It's like a well-oiled run machine. Everybody knows about autism, the different levels of autism, how everybody's going to be different. They approach your child differently. So even though my child's in a class with 10 others, she has her own specific plan that they're going by. And it may not be like, the child that's sitting next to her. So they take all of that into consideration.
So is she integrated into the classroom with other regular ed students, or is this a school just for
It's
The
just
autism.
for autism in children who have a developmental disability. It's a charter school, and they
Okay.
go by the Palm Beach School Board education plan. So all the work that she's doing, they're doing at your mainstream public schools and private schools.
Okay. And then how long does that school see her through before that next layer starts?
They actually go through 12th grade, and you can get
Oh,
your diploma there. And they're actually
okay.
building now adult transition services. But the thing is, when they reach a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that when they are at the point to where they've kind of outgrown the school, then
Mm-hmm.
they do recommend mainstreaming them into a public school setting or, a private school setting. So that is something that they have begun to explore with us, because she might be getting to that, even though she's only in kindergarten,
Right.
exploring that with us to kind of prepare us for that moment. I'm just hoping and trying to get them to let her stay until
Mhm.
after third grade, and when the testing part of it dies down a little bit.
Right. And what have you found is some of the most useful tools, therapeutic type services? Like yesterday, we had on an amazing woman that was talking about that rapid method prompting, that
Mm-hmm.
RPM. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know that there are kids that use that. Is your
Mm-hmm.
daughter verbal?
Yes, she is. She is now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She is now. Okay. What did you find were your best, I guess, tools in your toolbox that you have used these last couple of years?
For us, it was more about focusing on her speech aspect, because she was in ABA. That's what we were paying the $200 a day for. But
Okay.
she doesn't really have the behavior aspect of autism. So
Okay.
for us, it was like, okay, we need to focus our attention somewhere else. She doesn't need that. And then she had a few sensory issues as well. So she kind of graduated out of OT. So all of her focus at the moment is on speech therapy. She has speech therapy every day. So
Okay.
that's where we've focused all of our attention into with her, because that is the thing that kind of lags with her, and we want her to be able to advocate for herself, especially when she mainstreams into the public school setting, if we decide to go that route. But yeah, all of her particular focus is on speech, but there are ABA out there. There's cognitive behavioral therapy. A lot of people think that ABA is the only behavioral therapy that children on the spectrum,
Mhm.
adults on the spectrum can have. And that's probably why, there's such a long wait list for most ABA. But, you
Right.
can also get yourself a licensed therapist who specializes in CBT, and that is a certified autism specialist. And they
Okay.
can work well with your child just as well as an ABA therapist, depending on the behaviors that your child is exhibiting.
Okay, that is wonderful. That's wonderful knowledge. Now, with Autism in Black, what are some things, if people are watching this broadcast today, would you want them to know that by going to your website, by exploring things more, that you are able to offer kind of as supports, or what you're putting together, what Autism Black is all about?
Okay. So I started autism I was kind of doing it under my other private practice that I
Mm-hmm.
was talking about, but I officially started Autism in Black in January of this year, to
Okay.
focus particularly on Black families who have a child on the spectrum. And I do therapy with the Black parents on supporting them through this journey, as well as couples therapy if they need that to strengthen their marriage through this autism journey. Because, as we know, having a child that with special needs and disabilities, it can kind of, put an extra strain on your marriage. So you want to be able to talk about that and communicate healthy and be on the same page. So I offer the couples aspect as well. And why I particularly focus on parents and couples is I think we need the support. All of the agencies that are out there focus mostly on our children.
Mm-hmm.
However, we are the ones with our children all the time. So we need that support. We need to be heard. We need to be able to talk to someone about our frustrations and our journey, and have that support, because the focus is so much on the kid, and we're focusing so much on the kid as
Mm-hmm.
well, that we need to have that self-care aspect. So that is why Autism in Black focus specifically on the parents and the couples, and specifically focuses on the Black community, because also we see autism differently. Our culture is different for us. So having someone that looks like you and understands you to a certain extent makes it easier as well.
That is wonderful. And do you do, like, let's say somebody doesn't live near you, because I know that you do speaking engagements and things along those lines, wants to get in touch. Are you available to do like Zoom, like we're doing today, or Skype with couples, or any of those type of services?
Anybody in the state of Florida, I can do therapy with. Outside of Florida, I can speak for you. You can do a webinar with me, things like that. But as far as actual therapy,
yes. It would be more consultation.
Exactly.
More of that type of thing, helping them maybe strategize versus therapy. You would be able to, which you could only do in that sector, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And is there any new things coming up with Autism in Black this year that we should be keeping our eye out for?
There is a workbook that is coming out in the next weeks. It's a guidebook. It has everything from working on communication, boundary setting, because that's, can be difficult, self-care. It goes through all of the emotions that someone who has a child with special needs and disability experiences. So it's a workbook for anybody, parent, caregiver, loved one who has any kind of interaction, connection with a child on the spectrum or a child with a disability or a special need. So we have that. And then I have a parent webinar series coming out as well. So there'll be, me talking and talking about the tough things of being a special needs parent, and guiding you through that and giving you that support that you need, because we just need the support as parents, and that's my goal. We just need that support.
I think that's one of the main things, is that from every parent that I've talked to over the last 2 decades that I've been a special needs parent, is that you need that support system that's there. You need other parents, that you have your friends and your family that have always been there, but you need other parents and people in your life that can relate to your situation of what you're going through on a daily basis. So building that network and community is so important.
It really is. And I didn't really understand that and for myself until I started to join some autism mom groups, and I started to experience that feeling of, I don't even have to explain, what I'm going through. They just understand. And that to me was like, I found my people. I found my tribe. So I want to make sure that that's what parents are doing, building a support system, not only of your loved ones, but somebody who is experiencing what you're going through, because then it makes it easier, because you don't have to explain anything. You could just say something, they know it automatically what you're going through.
Right. I feel the same. Right there with you. Now, I think that you had mentioned to me that for our viewers today and people who have checked in to this broadcast, they're going to get a little freebie from you today.
They are going to get 2 of the exclusive pages out of my guidebook that's coming out. All you have to do is go to www.autisminblack.org/self-care, and 2 of my pages focusing on self-care will be sent to you, because I think that it is extremely important that we take care of ourselves. So that is my gift for you, is to set up that self-care plan.
That's awesome. And we're going to drop that link below, so everybody will have that. And definitely we'll come back to this as soon as you have that webinar series set up. And we can drop that below and get that to our audience.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Is there anything that you would like to leave us with? Any tip, quote?
Yes.
Any favorite thing of this Wisdom Wednesday? I'm all about quotes. The more you get to know me, I got a zillion quotes.
I don't have any quotes. I just want to encourage any parent out there who has a special needs child or a child with a disability to remember that you are the expert with your child. The professionals, yes, they're there. They have the education background, but you are with your child the most. So your child. And if something doesn't feel right, act on it. You don't have to take what they're saying as that word is bond, because you are the expert. You can fire your professional, and you can feel no guilt or shame in that. And that is a professional telling
you, yes.
So make sure that you are going with your mom, your dad, or your caregiver gut and saying, okay, this doesn't feel right. I want to change it. And if they don't respect that, find somebody who will.
Yep. I always say that we will, what we accept, we will receive all the time, you know? So if you accept it, if you accept it and take it, that's what you're going to receive. So that's why we all need to stand up and use our voice.
Yes. Yes. Advocate for yourself just as much as you're advocating for your child.
That is right. Well, on that, I thank you for taking a half an hour out of your warm, sunny day in Florida.
80-degree weather, yes.
It is a little nicer here, like I said today. So we're not so grumpy. We're not so grumpy. It's finally like 60 or 58 or something like that.
Like winter here. People will like freeze.
They would be with their scarves on.
Yes, and their parkas and their Uggs, and they're just like, it is too cold out here. I'm like, it's really just 60 degrees.
Right. Well, I thank you so much for spending this time with us this morning. I'm definitely going to drop all the links below. I know Maria will keep in touch with anybody. If you have comments, questions, maybe you don't go to her website, make sure you drop them below that Facebook so that she can answer those for you. Yep, you sure will. And then as always, you can hop on over to the onairadvocate.com to find all of our YouTube tutorial videos, podcasts, and any of our other social media applications are right there. I just want to remind everybody, our On Air Advocate community is coming out on Facebook in June. So make sure that you hop on over there and you request to be a part of this, because all these amazing speakers and presenters are going to be in that group. So they'll be also able to answer your questions then. So with that, thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you.
Guys, God bless, and you have a wonderful day. Thanks.